Okay, we don't know what that is. But hi, y'all. Welcome to another Sunday of Sunday Soul Sessions. I don't know if I'm gonna still do them Sundays or if I want to do Mondays. I used to call Mondays Morasia Mondays, and that was really my day to nurture my spirit, nurture my soul, and that's what we're here for is a soul session. So just really to connect to ourselves before the week starts. And so I know I came in hot and heavy and excited. This is the first time I've done a live, so I'm really excited about that. But it's been a week, so I am going to slow myself down and we can do a couple of deep breaths. If you're here live or if you're watching the replay, it doesn't matter. I'm sitting in a spot where the sun is directly on me because that's what I've been needing, some light. So step into whatever it is that you need in this moment. If you're feeling like you want the light to shine on you, or if you want to sit in a space of darkness, it's just whatever feels good. So, it's a little too hot for me to be outside in the sweatshirt, but the light through the window feels really nice. So, we're sitting by the back door and we are tapping into our soul, getting connected to our spirit in this moment. And so I'm going to silently just kind of bring myself to the moment. And you can join in as well. Couple of deep breaths. And the goal is really just to be present with yourself. So, as you're continuing to take a few deep breaths if you need it, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. So, last week we talked about catalyst. And so, catalyst being something that helps movement to happen, that facilitates change within something. So, in herbalism, it is the thing that moves the medicine through the body. And then the next one that I like to talk about is the grandmother because it is the softener. It helps you to receive the medicine. So, if the catalyst helps you to move the medicine, what helps you to receive? It is the grandmother, it is the softening, it is the soothing or the nurturing herb. It is the herb that works on the nervous system. And so today I wanted to free flow. And apparently, I wanted to talk about receiving. And I did not know that's what we were going to talk about today. I actually was going to talk a lot about my younger self, and she probably will come up today. Um, but I like to share what is currently going on or what I am currently feeling because over time, as my mom would tell me, is like pay attention to the cycles, pay attention to the patterns. And I started noticing that my patterns are very connected to nature, like as are most of ours, when we have the space to pay attention to that. And so I'm feeling the change of spring, I'm feeling the release of kind of what you've been carrying throughout the winter. I'm feeling, um, this cleansing out that needs to happen of an old idea, an old way of being and existing and seeing myself, and like a renewal that's trying to come in, but I also feel a lot of resistance. And in herbalism, we also learn about the resistance in the body. So if there's a medicine, an herb that you want to incorporate into your routine, you also have to consider that you probably have some resistance in the body. And so what helps us to kind of melt away some of that resistance and work through some of that tension and that stress, that's going to be your grandmother. And so I really did not know we were going to talk about this today, but I'm excited. And the one thing that we haven't talked about, which would have made this a little bit more make sense a little more as we build on it, is talking about like the main herb of the blend. And so let me just give you a breakdown of that really quickly to make it all make sense together. Because we're not talking about herbs today, we're talking about you. We're talking about how you embody this kind of formula that's created for herbs. And so you have the main herb. This is going to be, I don't know if it's called the mother herb or I can't remember right now, but it's your main herb. It is the herb that is what do you want this blend to do? Now, if you're drinking a tea, if you are taking a tincture, if you've never heard of a tincture, This is a tincture. You probably see people with these all the time. Um, and I actually made me a little tea in here because I forgot to mention what I'm drinking. I had some lemon balm that I got from the community garden, and then added some red rose petals. You can see it's been steeped. Um, and then I took this ginger and elecampane, which was created for like getting rid of mucus. One of my classmates and friends made this and shared it with me. But the other thing we know about ginger and elecampane is it helps us to release, because it's helping to move things, to get things out. It's going to help us to release emotionally as well. It's helpful for moving through grief. And so, very fitting because ginger is actually a catalyst. But I had to sprinkle that into my cup of tea today because I feel a buildup, a buildup emotionally, a buildup of water, and it needs to be released. And I don't know how to release it, or maybe I know how to release it and I'm resisting. So that's me. That's what's going on in my life. Feel free to share what you've got going on, what it is that's been on your heart and your mind, because what I've learned is like as we collectively share, we can collectively heal. And you're not brought to people for no reason. Like we connect with people in community intentionally based on where we are in that moment. And so if I'm not vulnerable with you, I can't actually support this journey. And so first, I show up for me. And then I show up to kind of share and to be a witness for other people. But I first have to show up for me. So this is me showing up for me by being here on live. I was not going to do it today, but yeah, I needed to be here. So back to this resistance. So we're building an herbal blend. And we have our main herb. That is what we want this blend to do. So let's say that my stomach was hurting. I want something to help me for the digestive system. So the next thing would be your supporting herb. And so then you would include an herb that supports that main function. And then you would have a catalyst. That's going to, again, get the medicine moving throughout the body. But then you have your grandmother that helps you to receive the medicine. And so there are certain percentages of each one that you use. The supporting herb can be a little more free flow, and you can think of it more of as like your flavor herb. So I guess we'll get to that at another point. But speaking from the resistance standpoint, we talked about the catalyst that we've experienced in our life. The catalyst we may be experiencing right now, it's moving. And so this catalyst that has happened is moving us somewhere. It's creating change, and it's taking us somewhere that we may not want to be, or we may not know we want to be, or maybe we want to be and don't know how to get there, or we don't have the willpower to get there, or we're just a little confused on how it works. And so the catalyst is going to be those spicy herbs, those they're typically very flavorful actually, but they're memorable. And so I think about these moments in our lives that are memorable, that change our trajectory. And most of the time when our trajectory is changing, it is for a reason. This change needed to happen. And so sometimes we can go through this change smoothly, or we can and go with the flow, or we resist. And it's like, this is uncomfortable. My body is not used to this. My body is not used to this demand. My body is not used to experiencing this type of lifestyle, this medicine. And so you need that grandmother to create some soothing, some softness, some nurturing to relax the nervous system so that you can receive the medicine. Because yes, the medicine can come into you and flow right through you, but to really receive the potency of the medicine, you need something that creates a space of receptivity, if that's a word. And so receptivity in this season could look like, these are the things you've been asking for. Like, you've been praying for this thing. You've been praying for a new situation. For me, because I got to share, right? I'm working on vulnerability, so I am going to share. But I've been working towards, like, I want a new career. I want a new life. I want a new lifestyle that fits who I am. And this person that I can feel that I've been catalyzed to become, that I've always known that I wanted to be, that I've always been in touch with, but I've never embodied. And I remember one of the comments from last week, someone said, like, to move into a space where I can be fully embodied. And I think that was a very beautiful way to put it, because I feel like that's also the space that I'm in, is moving to full embodiment. And so a lot of times we're always talking about these changes, these things, how to fix this, how to feel better, how to do this. But sometimes we just need to be present with what's happening. And so that comes with the nervine, the nervous system herb, what's another word for it? Adaptogens are normally nervines, but this nourishing plant, this nourishing experience that is trying to happen to you and for you. And so we're all trying to receive potent medicine in this season, especially in spring as things are getting going. Again, that catalyst. What is getting going? Like, what are we trying to receive in this moment? And how are we resisting what is coming in, what is changing? And it's so funny because my mom also sent me I guess a meme, a quote today that said something about like your old self, don't let your old self keep you from becoming your new self. And it said it a little more eloquently or cool or whatever, but that's what I remember the gist of it is. And so when we talk about embodiment, I think that's what comes in, is this kind of releasing of this old version, this outdated belief system that we have of ourselves, and embodying this new version that we know we've been cultivating, that we know we put in the work to become. And so I think one of the questions that come from me is like, am I really this person that I've said I am, that I've been working on becoming? Did I really do it? Like, am I her? And I think the reality is you're not her until you embody her. You have to let her be there. You have to let her come out. You have to let her be present in this moment. And so you're always going to have this inner turmoil if you're fighting who she is and who you were. And who you were has a lot of say. They have a lot of relevance in the moment, but they cannot steer the ship. And so this new version of self is steering the ship, is moving in a new direction, is watching all of her dreams be cultivated. And the old self is like, wait a minute, I remember when we were rejected. I remember when we were unhappy. I remember when we were anxious about everything. I remember when I tried that thing and they told me no. I remember when I thought I could have something and it was taken away. I remember when I thought it would be like this and it didn't happen like that. I remember last time this happened and I was scared. And so she's saying all of those things to you, and you're like, dang, wait, like, you're right, that did happen. I did feel those things. But this new version of you, for full embodiment, needs to recognize that is why I'm here now. You know, to change the story, to change the trajectory. That was all information. That was all things that were filed away, that can be filed away without being the instructor, without being the blueprint for what's to happen next. And I think that's why we go through these cycles, because I was writing today and I was like, man, I feel like I never, you know, I was channeling my 16-year-old self, my high school-year-old self. And I was like, man, I feel like I'll continue to repeat these cycles. How do I get out of these patterns? And I was also talking to myself about like, this is what we dreamed about, but all the disappointment from the years before, like all the things we expected things to be that it was not. And it was almost like a reminder of like, this season that you're moving into, this season that you're being able to fully embody who you really were. We always wanted this. We always talked about this in high school. That was the mindset. That was the motivation to keep moving, to keep trying, to keep striving in the midst of rejection after rejection after rejection. It was like, no, like, because that one day it will be like this. One day it will feel like this. And now that time is here and I'm like, wait, what? So, yeah. So that's why I said I want to talk about my younger self today, because I think she has a lot to say about the resistance that's in my body. And sometimes we resist things because they don't seem like they're going to happen. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. Like I'm used to having to prepare my body. Like I'm used to tensing up, preparing my body for impact. And it's like, you don't have to prepare for impact anymore. Like this is going to be a little more gentle. This is different. Like not only is it going to be different, but you also have to realize that you've done the work for it to be different. you've went back on that journey and you've upended a lot of things. You've changed these belief systems that were deeply embedded in your system. And while they are in your memory, they don't have to be in the driver's seat. And so, yeah, we have to allow ourselves to kind of relax and sit in this new season. And I struggle with that a lot. So I'm preaching to myself. Every time I talk, I'm talking to myself. But I'm hoping that this is helpful for somebody else, because the biggest thing that I've learned on the journey is that someone else always has a story that will help to move you out of your place of stagnation or your fear or your worry, because it'll be like something very subtle they say that you're like, dang, it's like they took the words right out of my mouth, or they're in my thoughts. I needed to hear this. And I remember on the journey, those are the people that I would lean into, because they were mirroring an experience that I needed to see, a version of myself that I needed to witness and see that there is movement, there is change that can happen, that is happening, and that will happen. So, yeah. So let's talk about the resistance and what the resistance may feel like in the body. So sometimes resistance may look like you have an idea or a plan on how to move forward, but you're procrastinating. You have created a whole design, a visual aspect of something that you want to do, and you haven't done it yet. It could look like you have an idea and you want to do it, but then you start getting a bunch of other ideas. And it's like, well, which one do I want to do? And you forget the original focus. And so, yes, creativity. We love creativity and free flow. But kind of figuring out how to rein in on, how to like focus in on that thing that you did want to do. And maybe you're somebody who likes to move around. You like to work on this. You like to work on that. You like to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think the accountability is just making sure that you're not resisting that thing that you know in your heart of hearts that you want to do. And so for me, it is literally living this new life. You know, I worry about things, how it's all going to fall into place. I worry about, what's the next thing that'll happen. Like, this is the shift I'm having now. But then when it's time to shift again, how will I respond to that? Will it be as intense as this? Will I be ready for it? I'm skipping all the way to the next season when I'm currently already in a new season and I'm trying to shift to the next season. And so sometimes that's what resistance looks like. And in the body, it feels like tension. It feels like anxiety. It feels like restlessness. It feels like, this is for me. It may feel differently for you. But I think that's the important part, is identifying how resistance feels to you. Because I've been having this thing lately where I've been talking to people and I'm like, as soon as they say like, oh yeah, I'm stressed, or oh yeah, I'm overwhelmed, or I felt like that before, even if they're not feeling it now, they're, we're just talking. And they're like, I felt like that before. I'm asking now, what does that feel like in your body? Like, how did you know that's how you were feeling? And so I've listened to people describe like how they knew what they were feeling. And it's just been kind of eye-opening for me, not only because it's like, oh, okay, so this is a feeling that is not unnatural. You know what I mean? Stress is a normal response in the body. And so it's when you are overstressed, when you are elevated, your stress levels are elevated for a long period of time, where it becomes a problem. And so having these spurts, these moments are natural. I don't even want to say normal, they're natural. And so learning the tools to kind of work through that is definitely important. But I like what I had messaged my coach earlier today, kind of tell her how I was feeling or what I was moving through, about this release that I felt like needed to happen. But I keep trying to ground myself. And she was like, well, why are you keep trying to ground yourself? Like, what happens if you don't ground yourself? And so I think for me, I never really gave her an answer, but I'm like, man, that was good, because I think it's about feeling out of control. If I'm not grounded and if I'm not feeling this earth and on this earth, I feel out of control. But then I started to think, like, what if the point right now is for you not to feel in control? And so, like, I feel like I'm going on this, like, wheel, and it's just spinning, and when it stops, I'm just gonna have to get off wherever it stops. And I'm like, well, where's it gonna stop? I want to be ready. Like, where's it stopping? What do I need to have prepared for this stop? And it's like nothing. Like, you're already prepared. You're already ready. And so while this ride is spinning and free flowing, I'm tense and I'm holding on tightly. And so not only when I get to my stop will I not be able to be fully present, but my body will be reminding me that I am scared, that I am fearful, and that I am reluctant to be here, that I don't deserve to be here, that, like feeling that will feel like another rejection. Um, and so that's when we talk about like the grandmother. And so I think our grandmother in the herbal blend, of course, is the softening, the soothing, it's all of that. But I also think about the community that we're surrounded with. Who is catching you when you fall? Who is supporting you? Who is loving on you? Who is pouring into you? Who is nurturing you in this season of change? Because we do need that. And I will always remember one of the things my teacher, Karen Rose, said was people need a safe space to transform. And I think about that as transition, transform, transition, to move into a new beginning, to start fresh. And you need a safe space. You think about a caterpillar and its chrysalis. It needs a safe space to become a butterfly. And so where are your safe spaces? Grandmothers, to me, feel like safe spaces. And so it's this old wisdom that has been here, that's ancient, that's been passed on generation to generation. And so when you're asking yourself, how do I get through this moment? How do I get through these feelings? It's okay to start asking. And I've learned, I've had to ask my mom specifically, like, what happens when you feel this? Is this a normal feeling for you? Because a lot of us, our mothers, we never got to see that side of them. And I'm not saying that we should have. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't have. It was what it was. But yeah, I think there's another experience that the people around us are having that it's okay for us to know about, and it's okay for us to learn from. And so the other thing with that comes projection. You don't want to project other people's experiences onto you, especially if you're not having them. And that's a thing that I often do. If somebody's struggling around me, I project it onto myself, and I'm like, oh, it's coming for me next. Like, I'll be struggling soon too. Or I'll just start thinking about, like, okay, if I'm in this situation, how do I get out of this situation? Because I see they're in this situation, so it must be something we all experience. And so how do I get out of the situation? And so now I'm planning for something that's not even happening. I am fully present with something that is not actually happening, when I can be present with what is happening. And I think that's a lot of work to think about how to do that. How do I get present with what's actually happening? So there, of course, are a lot of grounding techniques. But I think a lot of it goes back to the thought pattern, is working on this thought pattern that takes you back to, that is my immediate response when something happens to somebody else. And that's when we start to work with our therapists and our coaches, and we dive into, like, why is that my response when I see trouble happening around me? Why do I think that it's chasing me too? Why do I think that it's coming for me? Why do I think that it's gonna limit me or restrict me from what I know that I want to do? I don't even want to say should be doing, but what I know I want to do, how I know I want to move. The trouble in other people's lives seem to spill over into our own because we start to project that onto ourselves. And so even that, to me, takes me back to this whole idea of comparison of it's not real unless it's happening to somebody else. It's not real unless it has happened to somebody else. And so I think that's another thing that's hard for shifting out of a place. We're talking about resistance. And there's a lot of resistance when we're shifting into a new place. But, like, what if you've never seen anybody do this before? How do I know that I can do it? Like, how am I chosen to do this? And one of the things that I wrote down today was, like, I chose this. Like, it didn't matter if I was chosen to do anything. I chose to do it. And so I was, channeling my inner child, my 16-year-old self, my high school self. And you may ask, why was I doing that? But it just kept coming up. I was having dreams about high school, about sports, about people in high school. And then in the daytime, I was just thinking about different things. Like, I was working with students with the work I do. And I was like, we went to a high school, and I was like, oh, this brings back memories. And I remember talking to the guy I work with, and I'm like, yeah, like, he was like, I think you got some unresolved high school stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I think, like, I didn't get something that I felt like I should have got, or, like, I didn't get something done. Because I have these reoccurring dreams of, like, I have another season of, I feel like I have another season of sports or something like that, or another class, but then they're like, wait, no, you finished. Like, you're done. You're out of here. It's time to go. And I have them, I used to have them about college too, but um, these have been about high school. And it's been a recurring dream I've always had, but it's, coming up a lot more now. Just some different situations that have happened in high school and like a reflection of those things and how they're happening now. And so I'm like, okay, there's definitely something there. There's something I didn't get, or something that I need to go back and get there, or there's something that I took then that no longer applies. And so that's why I'm going back to this whole idea of being chosen or being rejected, because it's not even like we always think about that as like another person rejects us. And yes, that did happen. But it's also like a situation rejects us. A dream we had feels like it rejects us. An experience we had felt like rejection. I think about academics, like something as simple as like they went from top 10% to top 5% the year that I was graduating. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, like you worked so hard all those years because you want to be acknowledged for your academics, for your honors. And they're like, actually, we're changing the threshold. And so for a young person, that's upsetting when that's something you cared about. That felt like another rejection. And so I think about all of this language that I have adopted, all of these thought patterns, these processes that I have adopted based on these experiences. And, getting to a place now where it's like, it's okay to let that go. It's okay that that narrative no longer applies. But the reality is, when you shift your narrative, it's like if you don't feel anything else in that space, you feel like you're floating. Like you can feel like you're floating. Like, well, where do I belong? What is the threshold? What is the measurement here? And somebody tells you, well, you get to create your own, and I'm like, well, where do I start? And so yeah, it's a change. It is a shift. And the more we can work through our resistance, work with our resistance, the more we can receive what has been calling for us. Well, we've identified that we have chosen, that we have embarked with. And I feel like there was a conversation with my coach one time where we talked about like, you keep forgetting that you have a choice and that you chose this. And so I wanted to actually point that out because when I was writing, I guess that's why that came up again, for that 16-year-old self was like, this is the life. Remember back then when you wanted this, or you said that you were expecting this in life, and you were expecting that in life, and you were expecting that. And I think a lot of us, we get hit with different realities as we get older, and we realize that maybe those things won't happen. And so we kind of live in that baseline of like, this is good enough. And so shaking up my life, quitting my job, doing spiritual herbalism, all of these things, getting involved in gardening and farming, have ignited something within me, this remembrance of like, remember when you said you wanted that thing? Remember when you believed that these things could happen for you? When you believed that there was excitement after this stage of life and after this stage of life, and you would continue to build on that excitement. I was not somebody who peaked in high school. I didn't peak in college. And so this feels like growing and continuously growing and evolving, because I don't think we're supposed to peak in life. I personally don't think we're supposed to peak. I think we have moments where it feels like we've reached a peak and we kind of come down a little bit and then we go for another peak. But I don't think like peaking at a certain level is what I did, what's important for me. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a lot of me talking. I know I'm going live, but until we have a large audience or enough of an audience, it's definitely going to be me talking. But I want to make sure I'm coming back to the point. And so we are talking about resistance in the body, and we are talking about how to work with or work through some of that resistance. And so, of course, herbally, it looks like tapping into the nervines, the adaptogens that help us to adapt to external stress over time. Working with a provider or an herbalist or a care person on like which adaptogens would fit my body, what adaptogens work for what I'm experiencing. And then couple those with some nervines, things like lavender, chamomile. I always start with the childlike remedies because some of these things um, are from childhood. They are our inner child. They are things we have been working on internally that we may not have shared. And excuse me, some of these herbs, especially the flowers and the childlike remedies, they provide a lot of emotional support, a lot of allowing you to move through those emotions, and a lot of that nurturing, that mothering that we may need at our bigger ages to get through some of those things. So I would always couple those. I would love to like talk more about how you couple them with moving through certain things in therapy or in coaching. And so right now we're talking about the change. We talked about the catalyst, but we didn't dive into herbal remedies for a catalyst, but that's a part of your blend. Um, and you can drink them by themselves, depending on what you need them for. But catalysts are definitely going to be more focused on digestion, because we're talking about movement, the circulatory system. So thinking about the heart and pumping blood through the body, the things that are moving that you need to get moving. So think ginger, think cardamom, cinnamon. These things are catalysts. But for the grandmother, so the nervines, the nurturing, again, you can look at the floral remedies. Most floral remedies are going to be nervines. Lemon balm is like the elixir of life. It is like the happy plant. It just brings joy. It's a very childlike remedy, but it brings joy, and I love to make lemonade with it. With center sage, we have a lavender lemonade where I use lemon balm and lemon peel, so we can have kind of like a lemonade. And then I like the lavender too. So again, when we were talking about like the main herb and then the supporting herb, the lavender and then the lemon balm kind of work together. And then I added the oat straw as the adaptogen, or the nervine, or the grandmother herb. And then our catalyst is going to be the lemon peel. And so as we're talking about these things, I'm definitely going to align them to some herbal remedies or maybe some herbal formularies, because I think herbs are our allies. Like, they're there to support us through some of these bigger emotions, these bigger feelings, these changes in life. Like, they're our friends. It reminds me of the fish are our friends, not food, from Nemo. Y'all remember Nemo? Okay. So, yeah. I think it's time to start aligning with the change that's already happening. And maybe it's not something you need to do, something you need to change or work on. Maybe it is just allowing it to happen. Maybe it is practicing allowing those emotions to move through you, practicing allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm going through a change. I'm shifting into a whole new reality, which is something we don't talk about a lot. Like, a lot of us live in different, realities, experiences. And sometimes when we tie ourselves to a certain reality where these people we've known or these people we've journeyed with, that's the reality they live in, sometimes we limit our experience. And sometimes we are building new realities, and it's scary, and it's a lot, and it's lonely. But what if it just is those things? What if we didn't have to unmake it those things? And so I love that my coach brought that to me today, because that feels like the next step for me. Is like, okay, you're sad today, be sad. You're scared today, be scared. But this resistance to this feeling or the thought that comes up, maybe it's like a intrusive thought. I also looked that up the other day. What are intrusive thoughts? And that was very interesting. But what if you didn't resist the intrusive thought? What if you just acknowledged it, like, hey, okay, that's an intrusive thought, and then you just went on? But naturally, we were like, no, I have to change that thought. I have to not think that. And honestly, to change a thought, to change a pattern, it's something that happens over time, something that we need support with, something that we have to retrain our brain to even understand or believe. And sometimes the body, like the heart knows, the body knows. And so I think leaning into the embodiment that was mentioned is going to be really good medicine for all of us. And so if you haven't done so, because I didn't say it this time, let me know your flavor profile, because I'm going to start sharing recipes based on your flavor profile. And it actually tells me a lot about you, because you are hearing a lot about me, and you may not put it in the comments what you're going through or how this resonates with you, but it doesn't mean it doesn't. And so I want to hear your flavor profiles, and even in sharing your flavor profiles, like, why do you like that? Why are you drawn to that? And let's see, because we're talking about resistance. We can talk about where you feel the resistance in your body, and how you move through that resistance. What is your natural reaction to that resistance? Not what you think you should do, but what is your natural reaction um, to that resistance? And yeah, so I really enjoyed this. I'm happy I came on here and did this because I was resisting showing up today because I'm like, I didn't prepare anything. I didn't write it out. I wasn't ready. And it's like, no, but your heart knows. And so a lot of this is moving in alignment with our heart, moving in alignment with spirit, with God, with whatever you believe in. That's at the center of your heart. And so you got to move along with it. You got to move with it. And resisting it, it only just creates chaos, and not the good kind. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was nourishing to your soul, to your spirit. Um, these soul sessions probably should be a little softer. Should be. Shouldn't be saying should be. But I'd like them to be softer, or feel soft to you, to feel nurturing to the soul, feel deeply connected to the experience that you're having. So I love if you leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Tell me your flavor profile. And think on if you don't have the answer yet, just kind of think. And I think next week I'm going to do like a pause to where we kind of reflect on the 2 conversations we just had before we shift to something else, because I want to talk more about some of the questions that were posed for both of these sessions and working through those. So, yeah, we're going to close out on a little bit of silence, a little bit of gratitude. Thank you for bringing us together. And I truly pray that there was medicine in this message for you, and that as we start our week, that we can feel refreshed, feel renewed, and feel hopeful for the shift that we have been asking for, and feel fully embodied in this new beginning, in this new presence of ourselves, and move forward with that. And so with a lot of gratitude, thank you for being here. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what's on your mind, and I will see y'all next time.